Hi there. So it was at midnight here and I was planning to go to bed, but then I saw a comment and I was like, well, hey, I can answer this one. So instead of answering in a text and, which I'm gonna do, but I decided to make a video. So the comment I wanted to answer was about me, and someone asked me a question if the abilities that I had, they had it since I was like born, like did they have it since my birth, or is it something that I acquired over the years? Now, abilities we're talking about is the ability to get out of body freely without like many limitations. Also to see entities and beings and energies and stuff like that. As some of you know, like I'm just like weird kid who can do some of these things. So yeah, I just wanted to tell you more about myself. Okay, like so, as far as I can recall, since I was born, I was always like seeing more, hearing more. I always had more perceptions, and I was like a weird kid. Like people do everything like they read from the front and everything. I'm always from the book and backwards, and like my mind would just like work really weird because I would like read like upside down backwards, and I could read everything, and that was like that's working for me. Like I can read both sides, like normal side and upside down and backwards as well. So I was just like weird. I would be doing things that normal kids don't really do, and I was like really empathic since birth. I knew like cats and dogs can sense that something's gonna happen. Since I was a kid, I'm always sensing that stuff, no matter what. Like little things, even like the spoon's gonna fall, and I'm just gonna run quicker near the sink and just grab something or like get there. I'm just like reacting in all kinds of ways, and this is just like little things. But yeah, I've been able to see entities and other beings since basically my birth, since I was more aware as a kid, because I remember things from like even when I was in my mother's womb, but then like since birth, and I had this like weird memory because like I recall almost absolutely everything since my birth, like all the conversations, music that was played, things that I've did, like everything. I have like that total recall thing, and it's weird because like I've been talking to some people, and like they don't remember things when they were kids. They don't remember their kindergarten or school or university, and like hey, you're 25 and all remember is like your like 5 years of your life, and the rest 20 is like gone. It's like it's weird how some people are different from me, and for me, I'm trying to understand people. I'm trying like understand humanity, which is like I'm so weird and different, and like how do all of you work, So it's a challenge for me because I go out in the street and I find out that most people are thinking and they have a mind going, and I'm like quiet all the time. Like, why don't I have a mind going? So it's always a thing. Now, entities, like I think I started seeing them since I was like 4 years old. I probably saw them even earlier, but I wasn't that aware. Like I knew something was going on, but like I wasn't like just paying too much attention. And I think like I was able to get out of body since birth. Like kids get these nightmares, what parents call, and like for me it was repetitive. I would remember my past lives. Like I go to sleep and I'm not trying anything. I just like fall asleep and I wake up in another world and I'm experiencing things. But it was like way more than realistic, way more. And for me, like it just turned out to be out of body experiences, past life recalls, and I could relive it again and again and again, like repetitive stuff, until I like got the full recall of my experiences back in the other worlds. And it just like was weird because for me, like I wake up, I go to bed, I sleep for 5-8 hours, I wake up and I lived like 10, 20, 30 years in another world, and I wake up and like there's all these memories, all these experiences, emotions that I felt, and like whoa, what did just happen? And as a kid, you can't tell anyone about it because like I would start telling my parents. I would start like talking about these things, and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like what? It's like it's just I'm just crazy in their eyes. Like I'm just making things up or just wanting attention or something like that. And it's like it's pretty harsh because like you can't talk to anyone. At least I couldn't until like I found Rich 150X. Like a lot of you who are watching me probably know me through him, because like he was the one that like got me introduced to YouTube and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's quite a thing, and I was always able to see entities, see other beings. I go out with my parents and I'm seeing all these things flying, or like I'm hanging out in my apartment. Like I was like 4-year-old kid on the windowsill, sitting just looking outside, And I'm seeing all these kind of entities flying around doing things, and I call my parents like, hey, look, there's this. And they're like, what the hell? It's like, it's empty, like no one's outside. And I'm like, no, look, they're flying. And I would see things all the freaking time. And, I show it to my parents, and like they think that I'm just imagining stuff and like no one's paying attention. And then I have to close up because like people think I'm lying. And I'm like, oh, great. So I was like pretty much isolating myself from everyone, because we can't talk about these things, and if I talk, then people think I'm lying or I'm crazy, and it's like really hard because I'm seeing this, and I'm the only person who's into it. Like no one else has these things going, and then like as I grow up, things I'm learning is like it's just like a lot about entities, and like just understanding how it works is how should I say it? I was able to see things, I was able to experience things, but I did not have the knowledge of what it is. And, for about 14 years, I was not aware. Until I started reading about and researching, and until I got smarter and like, hey, what if? And like, I would just like, internet got introduced to me and stuff, and then like, I would go up and look these things and just like ask questions on Google and hear this and read up this and read up that and just make my own opinion on it. And eventually I find Rich 2950X. Now, when it comes to out-of-body experiences and going out of body all the time, for me, I was able to go out of body, but it wasn't intentional. Like, I did not know what's going on. For me, it was just a dream until I found out that there are things like lucid dreams or astral like projections and out-of-body experiences. So for me, it was always a dream, realistic as can be, until I found the different definitions, and everything that I was experiencing was like 99% was like out-of-body experiences. So I've had this ability, but like there were things that happened like in my life where I got like really suppressed in my environment, emotionally, psychologically. I was just getting in stuff that would trigger me as a kid. I would close up from everyone, like even less talking, like physically abuse, like sexually abuse, emotionally abuse, like all these things that happened, like really suppressed me, and created like an environment where I just couldn't do things. I was like really trapped. I got like so isolated that like I shut everything off. All my abilities to see things, to experience things. I just wanted to tune out of this world and not be here. So all those abilities I had to get out of body and stuff, I tuned it out. And I feel like that's a thing that happens to a lot of people. Like since we're kids, as we're growing, we're facing a lot of like these harsh environments where we are limited. We're not taken as who we are, and like we have to like adjust to the system, adjust to how everyone else is. And if we have ability, like we can visualize, and like kids have these imaginary friends, but they can actually see beings, they can actually interact with them and have like conversations and stuff. Just because your kid is talking to someone doesn't mean like they're making shit up. It means that they could be seeing beings, they could be talking to them and having a really good conversation. Now I'm not saying that every case is like that, but ask your kid about it. Tell them, ask your kid to tell you about your friend, and all those details. Because for me, like, I could literally communicate and find things out and just like learn more about the world, and it was like pretty amazing. Now, as I'm talking about, like these environments, big things like parents and how they parent us and how do they treat us? Do they understand us, or are like they're questioning us and stuff like that? Also, like people around us, like school and like relatives and all this stuff, the world, they're just not accepting. Most of them are not. So a lot of people grow up in these environments where it's just not safe. You're going to be laughed at. You're going to be think that people will think that you're crazy, things like that. And just like we end up suppressing ourselves, just shutting everything off to become normal like everyone else. And everything that you are, all this like godlike being, you're just putting yourself in a box and not ising who you are for real. And that's a big thing. So I think like a lot of people suppress themselves because we want to adjust to the system. And another thing is there's this whole like food thing, what we eat and all the chemicals we get, like junk food, just you name it. Like there's like tons of little things we can get from our foods, from what we drink, what we consume, and that's not good for us. It's gonna shut off some of the elements, or like some of your pineal gland is gonna shut off your natural chemical making, or DMT. Like most people, you can create DMT with just by breathing deep, and deep breathing will you can your lungs is the thing that creates the dopamine. So I mean DMT. I'm sorry. Anyway, so you can get a lot if you are taking care of yourself and if you are aware of what your body can do. And a lot of people, they're either ignorant or they want to have that like short-term fun. They're gonna drink some alcohol, they're gonna have like some beer, they're gonna have some drugs and stuff, and it's gonna be like short-term, yay, feeling good. But on the long term, we shut off our abilities to get out, to see more, to experience more, and all of a sudden we're shutting off our senses. Like you cannot like sense anymore the way you could, and you shut it off. Like, so that's one, like another thing. There's also like Wi-Fi, electromagnetic radiations, blue screens, things like that. Like if you like gaming and you play, like we spend a lot of time playing video games, watching movies, watching anime, just like staring at the screen, that's not good for you. Like if you can break out from that and just take away some time from not looking at the screen at least an hour or two before going to bed, is going to be a huge improvement. And like a lot of people are like a lot of people have phone right next to their bed, next to their pillow when they go to sleep. We're just like, oh, going to sleep, and you're like scrolling on your phone like for hours, or okay, 2 a.m. gonna fall asleep, and your phone's always there radiating and like just messing with you all the freaking time. If you can put it away from you, that's good. And it's a big habit to break. I think like a lot of people have a problem with that, and I've had myself. Like as a kid, I was like pretty much into gaming. I'm not a big movie person. Like I'll be lucky if I watch 4 movies a year, and that's gonna be like my highest. I did watch anime though. I've spent plenty of time watching anime and translating it. Playing video games is a big one for me. So I think like when I was a kid and I really got at that one, like stopped playing outside like everyone else did back then, and everyone gets to the house and like now it's all computers and stuff. Well, that was a thing for me. So with all that going on, like emotional suppression, psychological suppression, like suppressing myself, who I am, I was sweet tooth. I was like really into sugar, and I think that had like too much effect on me. But it, like with all the stuff I've been eating back then, it was like really a thing, and it wasn't too much, but still, like every little bit counts. Also, like the way I lived, like I was never a phone person. Like even now, like I don't need phone. Like if I get a call from my parents once in a while, like yay, I'll answer that. Like apart from that, I'm gonna upload a photo on Instagram sometime, like once a month, maybe once to 2 months. Like yay, it's a thing. Like I use phone to go on Instagram and follow Gary Vee and see what Gary's doing, or Mel Robbins and stuff like that, but barely anything. So for me, phone is not a thing, but for a lot of people, phone is a thing. People go to sleep with it and just like, addicted. People are addicted to phones. Like not everyone, but there's a lot. So for me, like I guess like the most limited part was from 8 years old till like 13, 14. So in that period of time, I like pretty much suppressed my abilities and who I was, and just kept myself in a box. And that's when I shut off my ability to get out of body and get that many visuals and stuff. But then I started waking up and finding out about what's going on in the world, and just like learning more about all these things in the food and stuff. And that's like when I was 14, I cut everything, all the junk food, like no sodas, no chips, no stuff. I was still like eating chocolate from time to time, but other stuff I like wouldn't allow myself. And finally, like this summer, I completely cut off myself from sugar. Like processed sugar is not a thing anymore for me, so that's a big yay on my end. But yeah, like I cut myself from the junk food and changed my diet. Like started eating less meat and stuff, because like animals too, like if they die in a negative way, well, which is always gonna be a thing, and we eat them. We have their emotions, we have their feeling states, we have their entities clinging and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a thing, and I'm not gonna tell you to, hey, you have to eat that way and there's just the only way to eat. Like no, you find what's best for you. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to live, because everyone has to find it for themselves. But what works to get out of body, what works to get your abilities get better, is like going vegetarian or vegan. So, something to consider if you want to do it. Cutting off on those electromagnetics and stuff like that is a thing. Reading books was a big one. Like, instead of playing video games and stuff, just taking myself back and just reading books, it sort of turns on your creative mind. So now when you're reading, and like I was mainly in the self-betterment books, but I guess like a lot of people are like reading novels, detective, like whatever things, and I haven't read much of those, so I don't know the types. I know like there are self-betterment books, and that's the one I'm going for. But I know that like for me, when I read, my visual turns on, and I'm reading a text and I can see every single bit. They're talking about cells, I'm gonna see cells, like like body cells and stuff like that. So for me, like it's a big simulation, and instead of watching movies, I'm now creating things in my head as I'm reading stuff. So that's a thing. Reading books might help you to get out of body. And like since I was 14 and I started learning more about the world and stuff, it was about a year of work. I did some pretty intensive work on myself. As in, I wake up like I would go to school. I was probably like what, in the 7th or 6th grade. In the 6th grade when I started like doing that intensive work, I think. I don't remember which grade exactly, but it was still like 6th or 7th. And anyway, I wake up an hour early before school, and I start my meditation. And I would take like 30 minutes or an hour only for like meditating, doing all these like things of like, visualizing processes and like, this energy work. There was no specific way of doing it. I was just like doing what's right, and that would work for me. I mean, what felt good was the way I did it. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna do this step and this step and this step. I'm like, no, well, what feels good is if I just connect to that energy, that loving energy I have, and just like really get in tune with it and stuff like that. And I was just like, whatever felt good for me, I just did that. And there was no specific steps, but I wake up an hour early and I work on myself. I do my meditations. There's also this like toning thing or chanting, like and hum and like and all these sounds. And I would just like go for like, if the timing's right, because I don't want to wake up my parents because they're sleeping. I don't want to wake up my brother because he's sleeping. So if I can do it, yay. If not, I'm gonna get back from school and doing then. So there's like this toning and chanting and meditating, emotional freedom tapping, where you have all these points and you just like go through your things. And I would like do that every night. Since I had found out about Rich 150X channel, he was teaching me about getting out of body and stuff like that. I got into his OBE bootcamp, and he had all these like lessons and daily things, and I was like, this is it. I want to experience it. I have a goal in mind, and I want to achieve it. And my goal was like, I was in love with someone who was like very far away from me. Like, it's an ocean far away, and I'm like, can I use an out-of-body experience to actually connect to that person? And I was like, hey, it actually, like Rich told me that's gonna work, and it did that. Like, hey, I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna get out of body. I'm gonna see if I can connect to that person and just have a chat, because why not? Like I just felt like a good thing to do. And that's my practice begins. Meditations in the mornings, toning and like chanting and emotional freedom tapping. Waking up like 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night. Like, every hour I would wake up and get out of bed, do reality checks, like check the table, touch the wall, just touch myself, and go back to bed and fall asleep. And basically teach myself to do like these reality checks during the day, asking like, am I dreaming now? Am I awake? And all these like questions that would create a habit. So now when I get in the dream, I'm asking myself like, am I dreaming now? And I'm like, yeah. And all of a sudden I wake up from a dream and get into the lucid state, because from dreaming I became awake and aware, and from that I turned to lucid. And then I'm like, hey, and like as the more I would learn, the more I would shift from like dreaming to lucid dreaming and to out-of-body experiences, which was like pretty awesome. So like there's that. Drinking water became a thing, and like right now I'm drinking like 1.5 liter of water. Like that's the bottle size, and I can drink 2 of those a day, and that like became a thing. Like started from 1 glass because I wasn't a big water drinker, but I wasn't into coffee, teas, or anything else. I was just not drinking enough. So back then I started with like 1 glass of water a day, and I built up to like 2 bottles now a day, and that's like easy enough. So I like my water. That's pretty good. Like eating healthy, like veggies and fruits, that's a good thing. The more the better. Oranges is a big thing that will help you to get out of body and stuff. So I did that. What else did I do? Like there were like all kinds of various techniques. Let's see. Well, as you're laying in bed, you can like imagine another body of yours in all kinds of shapes. It can be metal body, it can be astral body, it can be energy body, it can be the body full of love, and just you imagine yourself above you, but it's gonna be the different kind of body of yours, like the different energy. There's something different about it, And so as you're laying in bed, there's your body above you, and you're just imagining it falling in you, and you're just filling yourself up. And basically, you have this like huge havingness process. Havingness is in like you get something and it's yours, and you just fill yourself up with these bodies. As in like, you know, all this energy coming at you, and you're just having it, and that would push you out of body. Like literally, you're just imagining coming, and boom, and you go out of body, and like, hey, I'm flying, I'm out. So I would do that. There was also like, I'm laying in bed at night, and or during the day. I was practicing during the day as well. Like, you know, just like after school, take maybe 20-30 minutes, just lay in bed and try to do all these kind of visualization processes. And one of these was like, I'm laying in bed and I'm imagining one of my body like sitting here on a chair, or standing near the window, or standing in the room. And I would create a body or two, or like 50 or 60, or like how many you want, you know. And what I would do is like, okay, I imagine my body, so a clone of me is right there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shift my consciousness from this body to that body. And as I would shift consciousness, I'd be able to shift perspective, or like, yeah, I think perspective. So I'm seeing things from my body that's laying in bed. Bam, I tune it in, and now I'm looking from another body, and all of a sudden like my point of view changes. And I would experiment and move my like consciousness from one body to another body to another body, and all of a sudden I would like try to move these bodies and like try to walk. And I've started learning how to practice moving my consciousness throughout my house. So as my physical body's laying there in bed, I would like use my consciousness and just explore the rooms all around the house and see the details and pay attention. And what would happen eventually is that my consciousness would shift and fully leave the body, and I'm out and I'm free, and I'm like, hey, the body's there, but I'm here. I'm fully aware. I'm out. Hey, and I get out and I do whatever I want. It's just like, that would be fun. So there was that. There was also this intensive thing. I would take like, it's gonna be noisy, but let's see. Well, I have like these like items and stuff that I'm writing out and stuff, like when I'm doing sessions. But I would like take this big like notebook and stuff, and I would start writing, I'm having an out of body experience. And I would fill out 100, 1,000, 10,000 like times just writing, and like, but it just like puts you into that like frame where you start believing it, and it just tunes you out and stuff. So that was a thing. I was also keeping a dream journal, so I would write down my out of body experiences and dreams, and what I did before I went to sleep, and like things that could have triggered, and I would just track all these things. I'm getting a Skype call from Rich, so I'll answer in a few. I just want to finish the video, but anyway, like, yeah, I was doing a lot of things that would sort of help me to get out, and I was working intensely probably for a year, and I kicked it out, and I kicked the case out. I was able to move through my limitations, and I got like lots of wins in life, and that paid off. That paid off because now I'm able to get out of body every night without even trying. Like, I just go to sleep, and for me it's like, yeah, I'm going to sleep, I'm not going to do anything, but I get out of body and I'm having fun, and every night it's like new adventure, and like I'm just, you know, I'm different. So people can be born with all these talents and all these abilities, and that's what happened with me. But you can also go through life and be suppressed and experience all kinds of things, and eventually if you start taking care of yourself, paying attention to what you need, you can put some work in. And for me, like, everyday intensive work, I was writing everything down. I have all my journals of everything I've done. Like, I've kept like my to-do list, and I did it list, and I would like write down absolutely everything I did, and all these records, like, you know, every day, tons of little things. And I would write down like my dailies of how my deep breathing and spinning and toning and chanting and meditation, and like tons of things every day for a year. And eventually I'm able to get out of body every night and just have fun. So yeah, I guess I'll finish the video and talk to Rich for a while, but I hope this helps. I hope this gives you some perspective, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.